What's up, everybody? Tristan Thompson here. This is not the couch. This is not a hotel room. I am in the White House with, first of all, this is an honor and pleasure to sit down with Mr. Hines. What's up, brother?
What's going on?
Appreciate you coming on. I mean, coming from Charlotte Christian. By the way, same alma mater as Steph Curry and Seth
That's
Curry.
right.
So it's a lot of
That's
it's a lot of notable people that have had accomplishments. So, do a little background research. So coming from Charlotte, going to NC State, all freshman football player, going to Yale, now being in the White House. Like, how does that happen?
It's still surreal to me.
Yeah.
I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My parents grew up as farmers in rural Indiana. My dad's family were chicken farmers. My mom grew up on a hog farm. My dad ended up starting a licensing apparel business in the early 90s back in NASCAR's heyday, which took them down to Charlotte. So I like to remind my family I am the only true North Carolinian inside of our family here. But it's been quite the journey. I loved playing football at both Charlotte Christian and at North Carolina State. Despite the fact I only played 1 year there, I was actually Dave Doran's first commit that he ever had as the head coach there, and was able to kind of help spearhead that recruiting class and getting other guys on board. And loved my teammates, had a phenomenal quarterback in Jacoby, who's still playing. I think he's with the Browns, right?
So he's with Browns. He just signed a 2-year deal. So, yeah, he's
nice.
He's been a journeyman, but he's been having a lot of success. So.
Yeah, so, I loved it there. I think I was looking for just something to push myself, academically, and decided to make the switch. And enjoyed playing football at Yale, too. I just had some season-ending injuries that occurred.
That shoulder.
Yeah, shoulders that just killed me. My sophomore year, and then also my junior year, the first play of practice, went back and broke my collarbone again. And I felt like, I was being pushed in a different direction at that point. Decided to go to law school at Wake Forest and just come back home. And that's where I got to spend a lot of time with my now wife. We have a beautiful 9-month-old son.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, his name's Theodore. He's the best. It's amazing to watch, children come into their own and start developing a personality. It's unreal. But, all of that led me to jumping into politics head first at a young age. And, I became the nominee, the Republican nominee in North Carolina's 13th district. Those districts have now changed because of redistricting. But it was one of the most contentious races in the country. And that's where I was able to cut my teeth and kind of learn what this space is all about. And in the midst of that, I started investing in crypto. I'll rewind, actually. When I was in North Carolina State, I played in the Bitcoin Bowl.
Okay.
That sparked my interest in crypto more generally, and I started investing around that time. And just from a retail perspective, as an active participant all the way through this journey. So I was very fascinated by the space. I felt as if the technology that was coming out of the space would truly change the world. And so, I ended up losing my congressional race, unfortunately, by a narrow margin, but wanted to stay in the fight. And the president obviously has been extremely gracious to me in providing me an opportunity to engage with a space that I'm deeply passionate about. We have to thank the president for his leadership here. We have a brilliant AI and crypto czar in David Sachs. He's phenomenal. He's the guiding star behind everything that we're doing. But we've made tremendous progress here already. And just every day walking into this building is such a privilege and an honor. Just putting my feet on those Navy steps, it really does hit you. Like, you're here to work on behalf of the American people, and we take that extremely seriously.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, before we get into crypto and talk about that, but just like you said, like the life here, like the honor, like walking these steps, like how's an everyday, like where do you go eat at? Like, people want to know, like, is there a cafeteria? Do you Uber Eats? Like how is it, like the everyday schedule for you? Just on just normal walk in to clock out. Like, how does that schedule go? Like,
well, it's chaotic right now. We have a lot going on.
Outside of the heat outside. I mean,
yeah, no, it's brutal.
Super hot outside. I was like, whew, I was in Texas.
There's a heat wave here. It's tough. But, we have a lot going on with the legislative priorities in this space. And so, my day looks a little bit crazy at the moment. But, we feel very comfortable with where we are. Obviously, Genius coming out of the Senate with bipartisan support was huge. And the president has now asked the House to put that on the floor quickly in that chamber and get it to his desk. So we're really excited about that, and we'll move full head of steam onto market structure. But my everyday here is I probably get in around 8 or so. Typically, crypto never sleeps.
Yeah,
so
never.
Much to my wife's dismay, I'm taking calls probably into the wee hours of the evening. But I get in around 8. I'm a big Celsius guy. So is my policy team over here who's watching us. But bang a Celsius, get to work, and start the day. And every day is different. Like sometimes we're dealing with interagency actors, sometimes we're helping to educate folks inside of not only our own building, but other folks inside of the administration, different places and different buildings. And then also helping to educate legislators that want to learn more about this space and really what it's going to do for our financial system. So, I can be on the Hill some days I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm in meetings constantly. I think I've probably had no less than 350 meetings with industry actors at this point, players that are both large and small and everything in between. I mean, I think that in order to really get to the best outcome, you have to meet with everyone, whether they're startups or whether they're Goliaths in the space. You have to understand the challenges that different players are dealing with. And so, I've taken that very seriously, and I've learned a ton throughout the process. But, it's get the job done, go home, get to hang out with my wife and my son, and it makes for a pretty good day.
No, for sure. And I think with, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think with do you feel with your athletic background and like us in sports and athletes, every game is different. Every matchup is different. Teammates are different, right? And I think I always like to correlate, business and work life to sports, because I always feel like there's a migration, there's like a unity, right? Because it's like no one can be a one-man show, right? It's always relying on somebody else, knowing someone's strengths and weaknesses, maybe sitting down with a teammate you might not be the most fond of, but you know that you need them to win, right? And I think in terms of in politics or in just business, I think there's a lot of similarities, which I think, tell me, has that, with your athletic background, has it helped you in this space in terms of just understanding people and understanding what's needed for the common goal?
Yeah, I mean, I take a lot of the lessons that I learned playing sports and apply it to the position that I'm in now. I mean, it is truly a team effort. I mean, you're talking about an industry that's done so much in the midst of headwinds. And now that we have the tailwinds at our back, it's so important that we coalesce, come together and establish these industry actors as legitimate players in the financial space and, give them the recognition that they really deserve. And I think that we're well on our way of achieving that. We've done a lot over the course of the last few months, and there's still a lot of work to be done, and we certainly recognize that as well. But look, industry actors have their own interests, and then you have legislators that have their own interest. You have folks inside of our building that are pushing their own interest occasionally, but most of the time their interests often align with the president, fortunately. But with that being said, you have to balance all of those things and make sure that everyone's rowing in the same direction and singing from the same sheet of music, because it's too important to get this right. To allow these personal interests to drive a wedge in between achieving great results. And I feel like we've been able to successfully navigate this space, whether it be from industry or whether it be with legislators or moreover anyone else that has interest here, and really achieve great things. But it's complicated. I think that it's no different than being in a locker room setting. You have players that want to get on the field. Obviously, that's their main objective, and you have players that are contributing in other ways, whether it's on scout team, giving you the best look every day. That's no different than what you see in politics, right? We have phenomenal actors here that are extremely helpful, and I think that the president's built out such a phenomenal administration, whether it's Secretary Besson over at Treasury, whether it's Secretary Lutnick over at Commerce, whether it's Brian who's incoming at CFTC, Hester Peirce over at the SEC, even Paul Atkins over there at the SEC. I mean, they are doing just tremendous things that make my life a lot easier to push this space forward. And we're super thankful for them. But truly, we've come together in a way that I don't think many people imagined that we could, and we've done it very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing about myself and people at home and people in the trenches, they were so excited when President Trump said, like, he's gonna be the crypto Bitcoin president of the United States. Like, that made people so excited, and made me excited, right? Because being in the space and going overseas to whether it's token in Singapore or Korea blockchain week, you just see how more advanced it is over there in terms of Web3 and crypto, right? And for us as being Americans and patriotic and wanting to be the best in everything, the time is now, right? Because like you said with your answers, you're saying, things happen fast, especially in this space. The narrative's always changing, right? You go from, we were talking about before we start recording, 18 months ago, I was trading meme coins on Phantom, on Solana, and now I'm sitting with Hines in the White House, right? Like, things happen so fast in the space. And the key is to be on top of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you have the meme coin era last summer, then you have the AI, which has a crazy run, and obviously, with President Trump fully behind and understanding the importance of AI, and then now, the next topic now is like RWAs, right? The narrative is always changing, and it's on us, especially as American people and the people that in power, the position that have the eyes, it's on us to spread the word, right? Because in order for us to stay ahead of the curve, and from all industries, right? Not just financial, whether it's, goods, whether it's providing services, everything that America's about, which is being the best at the best, we have to stay ahead of the curve. So for me in this space, it's kind of reason why I've dived into it. Because I know you're probably like, what is Tristan Thompson here doing talking about crypto, right? Like, shouldn't he be boxed out and rebounding?
No,
right?
I mean, I think it's phenomenal what you're doing. And, we discussed, again, like you said before we started recording, just how do we introduce like the everyday American consumer to this space and help educate them on how impactful these things can be in their everyday lives? I mean, like with the Genius Act, we're talking about stablecoin legislation that will truly revolutionize the financial system for decades to come. We're talking about ensuring U.S. dollar global dominance. We're talking about instant transactions, instant settlement times, full transparency. These are all things that the American people benefit from. And I think that you, with your platform, I mean, you've just done a phenomenal job of helping to educate folks to help them understand the technology here that's being built and coming from the crypto industry is going to have a huge impact on their lives in a positive way. So we're super thankful for you for doing that.
No, of course. And I think what you said is like global dominance. And what that means, and to really explain and dive into that so people understand, like global dominance, especially with like USD stable coins, right? Like what we always say, like all these other countries, whether it's in South America, whether it's Africa, whether it's in parts of Asia, whether it's Pakistan, India, these currencies and these top tier, the giants, right? The giants that are controlling the financial industry, at one snap of a finger, they can kill their whole currency, right? So, the one thing I love about this space is that we're really implementing stablecoins globally, right? And the fact that a kid can live in Tunisia and work an everyday job, and instead of getting paid in that country's currency that one day might be worth something, next day you go from sugar to shit, right? So for them to get paid in stablecoins and have that stability, it only empowers us back here, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And like everyone knows, like, the US dollar and USDC is gonna be the most dominant form of currency globally, because even when you're over there, everyone's trading, USDC, USDT. That's everyone's doing, right? No one is doing anything else.
For sure. And I think that what we've done also in Genius, which is important to point out, is like we're creating fair marketplace competition, right? There are folks that provide tremendous platforms in order to move the US dollar. I think we'll see more competitors introduced to the marketplace, but there are certainly Goliaths in any industry. I think that providing the regulatory clarity was so important just to give people optionality. And we're super excited to get this on the president's desk, have a big bill signing here. That's what motivates me and drives me. It's like the same thing in athletics. Like it's just you want to win. At the end of the day, you want to win. And the president wants to win for this country, as do I. We think that what's happening in this space will help the American people win overall. And that's why we're so hell-bent on this driving this forward, because we know how important it is. And like that's why I said, when I step foot in this building, I understand the seriousness of doing this job. And I have to give a shout out to David, who's sacrificed so much to step into this role and be that guiding star that we were looking for. He's truly one of the most remarkable people I've ever been around. The way his brain works is it's hard to even describe or understand. I mean, he can see things that other people can't. He certainly understands the full picture, and it's been just an amazing experience working with him. And that's a testament to the kind of talent the president attracts. I mean, look at the people inside of this administration. I think we're finally testing the theory a lot of Americans have had in their frustration with the political system. It's like, what would happen if you took private sector actors and injected them into government rather than having career politicians making these decisions? And I think what you get are excellent results. Like that's what we're seeing. I come from the private sector myself, and I've been involved in several businesses outside of this space. But applying just all of those tools and the things that you've learned in life, and making sure that you're dedicated to delivering helps you achieve excellent things, and we're going to continue to do that here.
Yeah, no, I think it's changing the new narrative. Like you said, you're bringing people from different sectors into politics and in the government. And I look at it almost as, in sports, right? I always like tight because the easiest low-hanging fruit where everyone can understand, right? With these front office teams, when you're curating a team, right? When you're curating a roster, like you said, there's always the suit and tie guys, right? And like in any business, you like to hire your friend. But the problem with a business, you almost get capped out to a limitation, right? But that's why you have to inject new people. That's why in the NBA, you see a lot of former coaches being hired, a lot of former players being GMs, right? So I think for everything in life, right? Like, make America great again. it's not just a saying, it's a DNA, right? And it's how do you do that, right? And how you do that is take people from outside the box, from the outside looking in that says, hey, this is not right. There's improvements. There's a way bigger runway. How do we make that happen? And I think for President Trump seeing that and understanding that, being a businessman coming from the outside in, you see a lot of flaws, right? You see areas of improvement. And that's how you make America even more powerful, right? To stand on top of everyone and be holding the torch. And like you said with David Sachs, in order to make America great, you have to have pioneers. You have to have guys that are not afraid to step forward, stick his chest out, and speak what he believes in and talks about a vision and a roadmap, right? Because I feel like with humans in general, right? They want someone they can follow, someone that they can respect. And for myself being in the space, that's why I look at it, right? Especially when you tie into crypto. There's so many people, whether it's crypto Twitter, giving advice about blockchain and trying to educate people. But the reality is like this. Your little cousin or your nephew, is he gonna listen to you talking about stuff on chain or Joe225 on Twitter, right? Like, I think the space needs more recognizable faces because that's how we're gonna grow this, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think you're exactly right about that. I think like expanding into other verticals just in societal life is important. Like you coming from the athletic background, the platform that you have and helping to educate folks is extremely important. We'd love to see other people step out and start engaging in that way because, you obviously have a tremendous grasp of the technology and what it does. And, just incentivizing more people to say like, oh, like what can this do for me and how can I help others is extremely important. Look, like as Americans, we should band together and help each other out, remove the partisanship for a second. That's one thing I love about the space too. It's like, the president truly is the first crypto president to ever exist. And he has created the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we are creating the crypto capital of the planet. And that's truly a testament to his leadership. But in this space, this should be like the most nonpartisan thing ever. Like we're pushing technology that helps the American people and revolutionizing the financial system. There's no ideological schism that should exist with that, right? And that's what makes my job fun. I mean, just the fact that we were able to have the bipartisan support we did on Genius, we got to engage with Democratic offices and other folks that were also passionate about pushing the ball forward here. And that makes things a lot more enjoyable. Just when you get to work together with people that, might not often think the exact way that you do, but they still want the American people to prosper. And I think that's lost on a lot of folks. I think American people get frustrated when they see just the political clashing constantly. This is one area in which we can band together and win together.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, obviously what you guys are doing is amazing. That's from the legislation, the House and getting bills passed. But I think when you look at, crypto, you look at it's finance, right? And I think there's like three prongs. You have, from your side, the presidency, you have those people, the institutional side, right? I like to break into like three sectors, right? You have institutional side, then you have like the level 2, which is more so the projects that are trying to be on chain that are for mass adoption, right? Stuff that RWA, right? That's a new narrative, right? Where how can we actually make the world a better place and make people's life easier? But then the third, but last but not least, which is kind of the most important, is teaching the fundamentals, the grassroots level, right? Whether it's the DGens or the kids in high school, like in order for us, and what's everyone's goal, right? Get Bitcoin to $1 million, right? But in order for that to happen, right, you got to almost start from the base, from the ground up. You got to build this education from the ground up, and that's one reason why I've really got into the space, where it's like the educational side, right? Like we've all went to college, and what do we learn there? Half the things we learn we don't ever use, right?
It's true.
70% of people that get degrees do not get a job in that industry, right?
Yep.
So that's an issue. That's a problem, right? It's a problem in our curriculum where we're not teaching, our younger generation tools that can actually help their life. And now with crypto and blockchain, this should be part of the curriculum, right? And that's what we need to start spreading because one day we're gonna get old.
Yeah, I mean, financial literacy is extremely important. I mean, just think about, even with traditional financial institutions, a lot of folks in the country just aren't educated on how to manage their finances, how to engage just with everyday financial needs. And, this goes even beyond that, right? You're talking about the integration of completely new technology in which everyone will interact with, but, hopefully more than a few will understand. I mean, that's the goal, right? We want people to actually know what they're engaging with and have a firm grasp of it so that they can benefit from it at the end of the day. And I think that, one, like this technology streamlines a lot of the financial processes. Like we've talked about how Genius updates the archaic payment rails that exist. I think that that's something that can be firmly understood just by engaging with the technology itself. Like, one of the harder things that we have to do is people that have never engaged in the space and never sent anything on chain, they can't really fully grasp even what a blockchain is, right? You start talking about what these things are, but you can elucidate that pretty quickly. And I think when people see it and they actually get to interact with these things, it makes it a lot more understandable. So as these technologies are introduced to the marketplace and they become more mainstream, I think you'll start to see people have a much better grasp of what's going on.
Yeah, I think the education onboarding process, right? We have to make it easy. And for me, I've been on so many calls with different protocols and founders, but the one thing you always notice that 80% of them cannot explain what they're building, right? And that's the most frustrating. I'm like, guys, like, you guys want this to go mainstream and get massed up, but you can't even explain your own technology. But that's really how Courtside Crypto came to life. Our experience in Singapore, you're walking in Marina Bay Sands, everyone's coming up to you pitching an idea. They're creating this, they want to give you equity, but I'm like, hold on, guys. You guys are all trying to be the best used car salesman, but what are you actually building, right? And like, is this actually gonna take to the next level, right? And coming back home and realizing, I was like, hey, like, we gotta figure out how to make onboarding easy and digestible, because you know how humans are, right? If you're using big words I don't understand, people are gonna tune you out.
For sure.
And if that happens, you lost them already, because we really only get about 30 seconds to explain what blockchain is in crypto, or they're gonna tune us out and be like, all right, man, this is just another scam or whatever it is. So for me, that's kind of how this all came together, like just trying to make the world a better place, but helping people understand, like, think about it right now. You go to Wells Fargo and you open a money market account. It's like, hey, Mr. Hines, we're gonna get you 4.5%, and you should be happy, thank you very much. And I'm like, sounds good, but I can go like on different, Aerodrome. I can go on Aerodrome pool. I'm in a USDC, BTC pool right now, and I can make 1% a day yielding, right? Yielding staking. Like, there's so much other ways where these centralized banks have done such a good job, brainwashing our people and kind of making them like sheeps, and they're the shepherd, right?
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is, though, I will give TradFi a little bit of credit here, because I think they're seeing just the direction this is moving in. And we've had many players from the traditional financial space banging down our doors saying, like, what is the right technology to integrate? What is this going to look like? How will this impact our business? And ultimately, like, they have their own companies, and it has to be good for them as well. But I think as these technologies are broadly integrated, banks will play a tremendous role in ensuring that, like, the everyday consumer is actually benefiting from this tech. And that's where, like, what you're doing also plays an enormous role. It's like helping people understand what's actually going on. It's really exciting to see the traditional financial players, like the Goliaths, the stalwarts in the space, like, they're excited now. Yeah. They're like, okay, we can see this, and we can see the impact it's going to have. We see how it'll help our business as well, just in terms of pure efficiency, right? I mean, efficiency is needed within any company, no matter how large the institution is. And the person that benefits from efficiency is the consumer at the end of the day. And so it's a really exciting time. I really cannot imagine, doing anything else that would be more fun. Like, this job is really fun. Yeah. Like, the people I get to interact with in this building, the creators in the space, the founders, the folks that are building, like, understanding and dissecting what they're doing and then translating that into something that's palatable is really important. And, like, you're doing that on a large scale with your platform. I just think it's really cool.
In this space, there's always new narratives, right? Always new things going on. And obviously right now, one of the narratives is RWA, right? Things that actually can help the everyday person, right? And whether it's, health data coming out where people can be on chain and holding on to their health and being in control of that, which for me, it actually hits home because, my brother has epilepsy. And, growing up in Toronto in Canada, you have universal health care, but that doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
But if it's free, it's not good. And I realized that as the older I've got. And, it made me really want to dive into the space in terms of how can I make everyone's life easier, whether it's on the health side or, for instance, there's companies that are doing telecommunication on chain where you could be your own boss and kind of, give these telecom giants a run for their money. Like, the world on chain is so much more advanced right now where they're trying to help mainstream. Like, what is your take on it? Like, how do you feel about what's being built on chain?
I mean, it's incredible what people are doing with blockchain technology within every industry. Eventually, I think that most of the things that are being built inside of any ecosystem within our economy will be moved on chain. Mm-hmm. And David and I talk about with Genius, like, it's the foundational pillar for everything else that can be built on top of it. These new payment rails, we want to get to a world in which you have 24/7 markets and tokenization of public securities, talking about tokenization of real estate, all these different things. Allowing the consumer to move in and out of asset classes at will is extremely powerful. Allowing consumers to track information in real time instantly, whether it be healthcare data, whether it be data within any other institution, is extremely powerful. I mean, the quicker and more efficient that you can streamline information, the better off you'll be in terms of decision-making processes, right? Yeah. The more that you can see instantaneously helps you understand the direction that you need to go. And it'll create efficiencies everywhere. I mean, like, can you imagine a world in which you pay your taxes to the IRS and you could track every dollar throughout the government of where it went and what you're actually paying for? Like, that would be amazing. I would love to live in a world in which that would be the case. So, and I think most Americans would as well. It's like, okay, well, I have some money going over here and some going over there. Honestly, I think it would help the American people better understand too what government does with their funds, right? I mean, these things are extremely powerful. It's going to be exciting to watch what people do. I mean, they're super creative people. One thing I can say about just the American people themselves, like, we have the most creative, the most industrial, brilliant thinkers in the world here. And I'm just excited to see what they're going to do.
No, I'm super excited, especially as a parent. I envision our kids, when they want to purchase their first home, they're going to be using stablecoins. They're not going to be going to these banks and doing a wire and signing all these 10 paperworks. No, it's like, what's your address? Send a test, send the full amount. Here's your home. Well, there's your mortgage, right? Yep. So, that's the goal and vision. And, for me, that's what it's about, right? Spreading the word. And, thank you for yourself and your team and David and President Trump, man. The fact that President Trump is, the first ever crypto president. We are here to see it. You see it every day live. I see it from the sideline. But I love what you guys are doing. And, thank you so much for the opportunity to sit down with me and chat. And let's keep it going, man.
Thank you. Thank you for all you're doing. It's great to have you here.
Of course. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you. Sir. Tristan Thompson, Courtside Crypto. We're in the White House. And I didn't have to win a championship to come this time. Peace.